time I'm always having this complaint of the temperature of my phone getting too hot, and if you just go off itself. So let's just quickly see what we can do before it goes off again. I will take into a technician and see what I can do about it. So once you've measured out the middle, also make sure you get the middle of this. So you fold this into two to get the middle. So the middle of this, I've already fingered out the middle of it. So once you've gotten the middle, let's just do it so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to fold it. So this is the middle. You can mark it out, okay? You're just going to mark it out. If you cannot continue, I'll just wait until I'm able to fix my phone. So this is the middle. I've marked it out. So you are going to ensure that the right side of this lays on the right side of this. So you face it like this, okay? Be taking note of these points. So if you follow them step by step, you are going to get everything right. It will be easy for you. All right, just follow the instructions. So to fix the zipper now, so the middle of this has to be in the middle so that they will be well aligned. So the next thing I'm going to do, this one that is going to act as a pocket, I'm going to measure out 1.5 inches from the top of this. This is the pocket. Make sure you measure 1.5 inches from the top. Okay, this is where the zipper is going to be. Okay, just make sure you are here. Follow the instructions step by step. I pray my phone doesn't go off again. I will solve this issue of my phone going off every time. So I'll measure out 1.5 inches. Okay, I'll measure out 1.5 inches. I already used my silver pen to mark it. So just measure 1.5 inches. I don't know if you can see it. This white mark, okay, is the 1.5 inches from the top. This is the pocket. This is the pocket we are fixing the zipper. Take note. I'm taking it step by step so that when you finish this life, you'll be able to go and fix a zipper, pocket, or compartment in your bag. Okay, so once you follow all of this, you're able to do that. So once you've done this, you've measured from the top 1.5 mark. Remember, we are going to be sewing with 1/2 inch mark. So I will advise you take from this point to this point. You are not going to do that 1.5 mark up to this edge. All right, you are going to stop at this point, because by the time we sew with seam allowance, we will need a space to sew on. So you measure out like here to here. You measure from here to here like 1/2 inches or 1/2 inch and 1/4. Okay, 1/2 inches or 1/2 inch and 1/4. I've measured this out. So I measured from here to here. Please, if you are not seeing it, let me know. Let me remove this. This is what we are talking about. So I measured out, in this particular one, I measured out 1 inch. All right, so by the time we are sewing with 1/2 inch, we'll still have space for the zipper. Okay, so once you've measured it out like this, remaining only one step to go before we start fixing. I'm going to remember that here to here is 1.5 inches. Don't forget. Then once you rule the 1.5 inches out, which is here to here, from here to here, you measure out 1/2 inch. This is where the zipper is going to stay, that 1/2 inch. Okay, here to here, sorry, I want to repeat again. This point to this point was 1.5 inches. Here to here is going to be 1/2 inches. Okay, because we wouldn't want the pocket, by the time we cut, we don't want it to be at the edge. That's why we measured out 1.5 inches. But for where the zipper is going to stay, which is going to house the zipper, you are going to measure, after measuring out 1.5 inches, from that 1.5 inches mark, you measure out another 1/2 inches. That's where the zipper is going to stay, because the zipper is not, if you measure the zipper, you find that it's almost 1/2 inches. So that 1/2 inches is where the zipper is going to stay. So when you watch the video, you will understand. This is just for me to explain before we start the practical. So I've already measured. Here to here was 1.5 inches. Here to here is 1/2 inches. So once we've done that, the only step that remains now is you are going to draw a bust. Okay, this is 1.5 inches and another 1/2 inches. Now we have 2 lines, so you are going to draw a rectangular bust. Okay, so let's just mark it out. Let's mark it out. I don't know if you are seeing it. So I've already marked it. I just want to emphasize it. Okay, so you draw a bust shape or a rectangular shape, and here to here was the 1 inch that we take, or we took rather. You draw that rectangular shape. This way is stop. Yeah, take note, here to here was 1 inch. You can use 1 inch or 1.5, or you can use 1 inch or 1/2 inch. Remember, we are going to be sewing on it, so we don't want it to start from the edge. So that's when I remove 1 inch. You can use either 1 inch or 1/2 inch rather. Guys, I'm fast because I don't want my phone to go off suddenly. So once you've be able to measure it out like this, we are good to go. The only thing we are going to do now is to take where this is your lining that you want to fix your pocket that has zipper. You put it with the right side facing you up. Okay, take note, this one is also the right side, so you are laying the external to the external. We are not using wrong and right, we are using external and external. So remember we measured out half. Okay, you're also going to take this one, it was, you folded it to get half of it. You're also going to take half of this and you lay it on that 2 inches mark. Again, when we cut out this, we measure that 2 inches mark from here. Take note, if you don't understand, go back to the video to see the explanation. So we're going to make sure they are aligned. Okay, you make sure they are aligned like this, they are well aligned like this. All right, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to just measure out like I'm going to mark out a mark at the middle of this. We are going to mark out a mark at the middle of it. You can either use your tape rule or you can just use your ruler to measure out a mark. Okay, we are going to mark out a mark at the middle of that box. So if you are just joining us, go back and watch. Okay, so I'm just going to measure out half mark. So people use, like, there are up to 3 methods that you can use to get a pocket on your lining. All right, but this is the one I use mostly. So this not up to half, just make sure that it's on the middle. The line you are trying to mark out is on the middle, because we are going to be cutting on that line later. All right, we are going to be cutting on that line. Then I'm going to be sewing, like I'm going to be notching halfway to this mark, to this half mark. Please, if you are just coming and you don't understand, go back and you will understand from the explanation. Halfway, there's a mark here where we stopped. So halfway to it, you are going to be drawing a rectangular sketch like this. Okay, it's like we are going to be notching it at this point. Just follow these measurements, then you are good. There are some tools that you can use for it that can simplify everything. They sell them on Amazon, AliExpress. Okay, I think I've gotten one from AliExpress before. So you mark it at just the same way. By the time we are cutting, you will understand what I'm trying to explain. So this is this notch. Okay, it's just halfway to this mark. There's a mark here. Can you see the mark? So halfway to this mark, you measure that a notch. Yeah, so you also do the same thing here. So I'm just going to, once you've done this, it's done, we are through. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to ensure that this middle is on this middle. Okay, so now you are going to take your pins and pin there. It's very simple. Once you've done it once, twice, you will get used to it. So you just, this what we basically doing, like just measurements. We are just doing lots of measurements. Once you understand the measurement, it's something that you just do without even thinking about the process. So I'm just going to use my pins to pin them down, so that by the time we are sewing, they don't move against each other. All right, so I'll just pin it down. Take note that we are trying to align the pocket with the lining, so you pin them down so they don't move. All right, so what I'm going to do now, guys, you remember that box that we drew, that rectangular box that we drew? I'm going to sew on that rectangular box, not the center, because once we finish sewing, this middle mark that we marked out is what we are going to be cutting on. Okay, we are just going to sew on this rectangular box here. That is the purpose of drawing that box out. So I will sew now, so you see what I'm doing. All right, this weather is hot and I'm sweating heavily. Okay, so I'll just move my chair to this point. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to sew on that box, So watch the video. If you are not understanding the explanation, probably you understand the practical. So take note, you have to pin it down so that they don't move against each other. So I'm going to sew on this box. There's a box there. That box that we drew out is what you are sewing on. Okay, right now I've not fixed my thread. I have to fix my thread right now. Sorry. So if you don't know how to fix a thread, it's better you just watch me fix a thread to the machine. I'll raise this up. So I'll pull this one out. It's already too short. So this is the thread I'm using, this size 3. So let me just turn the camera. You see what I'm saying? So I'm going to just pull the thread down. It's a thick thread. So I'll pass it like this. Okay, so there's a notch, there's a hole here. I'll pass it. Then this tension, I'll pass it through the tension. Okay, I'll pull it. I'm going to pass it through a hole here, this one here. So first of all, cut it. It's too long, so I'll cut it for me to comfortably work with it. I'll do something like this so that it can smoothly go through. I'll pass it like this. Okay, so there is an iron here, so you just pass it so it will be tight. That's why we are doing all of this plenty passing. So the last stage is just to pass it through the eye of the needle, okay, from the back to the front. So that is all. So once you passed it like this, I'm going to use it to bring. If this one, the down thread is down, you wind it down so you can bring out this one to the top. But it's already on the top, you don't have to bring it out. So next we are going to do, we are going to sew on that bust. Hopefully my phone does not go off again as a result of temperature. I don't know why it's always going off. So I'm basically going to sew on that bust. Okay, so that it actually means I did not get prepared. So guys, see what happened. I moved my machine from my room to outside, okay, because my room was a bit dark, and for me to carry it because it was too heavy, I had to remove the rope here. So that means I have to start fitting the rope again. All right, so this is how to fit the rope. I think this is even an opportunity for people to learn. So I'm just going to fit the rope. I'm sorry all of this is coming up. I didn't actually prepare. I would have gotten ready. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing. I'm trying to fix the rope basically. Okay, just wind it up like this. So I'll now continue. I'm just going to sew. I'm sewing on that bust, okay? I'm sewing on the bust. Remember how we got the bust, so we sew on the bust. We are not sewing on the middle. The middle is where we are going to be cutting later. Okay, just watch. It's a very simple thing to do. There's something hard about it. If you are a beginner, you follow the structure, you will get it. So that bust, I'm basically following that bust. There's a bust there that I'm following. So it hasn't gotten to where the bust ends. Remember, we draw out 1/2 inch from that 1.5 measurement. Just if you follow the explanation from the beginning, you'll be able to understand what I'm saying. The reason it's getting folded here is because the needle is too thick for it. Okay, I'm using size 23, which ought not to be. But take note that we are using a very light fabric right now. So I just make sure I follow. So I'm basically sewing on that bust. So if you are just coming and you don't understand, please go to the beginning again to watch. And take it back. So you are sewing a zipper. So I'll remove this needle. This needle is kind of obstructing it. Okay. I now back stitch. So now back stitch. I'm going to cut. So guys, we are almost getting there. So just move it here so we can start our explanation. So I'm just going to clean my paper. So what I'm going to do now, trim this off. So you see, so you can see the bust now, that bust we drew. So and there's a middle mark there, so I'm going to be cutting on that middle mark. So what you can do, you can either use your seam ripper. Guys, you can either use your seam ripper to just start the cutting from the middle. If it's a sharp seam ripper, just poke it on it and cut from that middle. Okay, this point that I have cut will be a starting point when you are using scissors, so you can be able to poke the scissors into the hole like this and start the cutting. All right, so I'm just going to cut on that middle mark. So we are fixing a compartment, a zipper compartment. For those of you that have asked for the tutorial, so it's a very easy thing to do. So remember that halfway to that to this, we marked out half inches, so that's where I'm going to stop. Okay, then I drew out a rectangular a form of rectangular shape here. Okay, so I'm just going to follow that shape and cut it. I won't cut it to the end of where this stitch stop. I won't cut it to the edge. Don't cut it to the edge, or else if you start losing there, I'll just cut it almost to that place. Okay, you can see that this where we started, okay, this where we stopped, but I didn't cut it to the thread, to the stitch there. All right, so I'll turn it like this. I'm almost getting there. I'll cut at the middle. Cut at the middle. I'm cutting at the center. We drew out a mark, a middle mark there. Okay, so if you follow it up from the beginning of the class, of the live stream, you will understand what I'm trying to say. Yeah, we are getting there. Let me put this down. So what I'm going to do now, guys, I'm going to carry this one and pass it through this cut here. Okay, I'll pass it through this cut. Okay, so if you have iron, a pressing iron, you can iron it in place so it can slip well. You can lay down well, like lay flat. Yes, that's the right word I'm trying to look for. Okay, you can just iron it in place. All right. Okay, so you can now, once you've ironed it, you can decide to put your zip. Some people make pockets, a compartment without zip. All they have to do is just to sew it like this. Let me just show you something. All right, and you can see where it's going. So this becomes a pocket. If you want to put a zip, you can go ahead and put a zip, but in this case we are going to be putting a zip. All right, before we put a zip, I want to use this opportunity to say, if you have not registered for that course, we just have about 8 days to go. 8 days to go. 8 days to go. I keep on emphasizing, and people's it's part of the fact that I talked about the fact that you can pay in two, like you can pay twice, like pay instrumentally. People are still asking if they can pay twice. Yes, I kept on emphasizing it. You can pay twice if you cannot afford it. You have just 8 days to go. If there's something you are not understanding, please chat me up. My contact is in my back page at the top of my YouTube channel. You see a back page there. All the contact, all the information you have to know is there. Ask me whatever question you want to ask. Okay, yeah, you can go chat me up on my WhatsApp. Okay, so now time to put the zipper to it. We've already fixed the zipper. So if you don't know how to attach your zipper head, go and watch I did a video. I don't know if I sent it to my InShots. Okay, so just check. I did a video where I fixed a zipper head to my zipper. All right, so if you don't know how to do that, I think these are some of the tricks and tips, secrets that you're going to be seeing on this course, on my master's course. I've started teaching on Telegram, so please go and register so you can gain something from it. So I actually purposely took the zipper to be longer than this hole. Okay, because if it's shorter, guys, take note. If it's shorter, maybe assuming you cut it the same size, by the time you sew it will shrink. Okay, you start like it's not going to be professional, so you make it longer. By the time you finish sewing, you can now trim off the excess. That is a trick. I'm talking from my experience. I've done this mistake before, that I will have to repeat the process. So don't make that mistake. Always make your zipper longer than the hole you are seeing here. Your zipper should be longer by at least 1 inch on each side. So I'm just going to put it. Okay, I'm just going to lay it. So you can see the zipper is coming out now. Okay, you can see the zipper is coming out. So once you've laid it like this, make sure the zipper head, make sure you are seeing the zipper head like this. Okay, make sure you are seeing the zipper head. Okay, so what you are going to do now, as I said before, you have to iron it in place. You can see that it's coming out. Okay, this jean is coming out from the satin, but when you iron it in place, it's going to lay flat. If you cannot iron it, one other thing I used to do before I put the zipper, I used to sew. I'll just sew it so that stitches, the sewing will make it slip. Okay, that's another trick. You can either sew it first before you start putting the zipper, or you can iron it so it can slip before you start your work. It won't give you any kind of disturbance, if that is the right word. So I'm just going to clip them. Okay, we'll use pin this time around. We are going to use pin. I'll take my pin. I'm going to pin them so that when we are sewing, we will not have much issue. So I'll just use my pin to pin them in place. Okay, so at this point, I want to say that if you want to sew on this, since we are using a yellow fabric, a yellow satin, it's advisable you use a yellow thread. Okay, it's advisable you use a yellow thread so that the thread you are using can match with the color of your fabric. Okay, if you are going to be using a contrasting thread on this fabric, for instance, you are using a yellow satin, you are using black, it's going to make your work unprofessional. So you use a yellow thread so it can match with the color of your fabric. I don't have a yellow thread, so I'm going to use a black thread. For the beginners, if you try to sew now, you are going to have issue because it's not laying flat because we did iron it. So what I'm going to do, I'm taking to the machine. Before we start putting this zip, I'll first of all sew it so when I sew it, it will lay flat. That's another tip you can follow. But use a matching thread. So let's just quickly sew it in place first. So you see what I'm doing? In case you don't have light or you cannot iron it, just first of all you sew it. So by the time you are sewing the second time, you're going to follow that stitches. So just watch. Most time the practice, when you see it being done, I think you learn more from that, or you learn away from that rather than me just talking. So I'm just going to sew it so it can lay flat. So the purpose of me sewing right now is just to make it lay flat because I did not iron it, right? So I'm just going to sew, ensuring that the edge of the foot is at the edge of one of these part of the pockets. So I'm just going to sew just to make sure it lays flat. And take note, guys, again I'm repeating it, when you are doing such thing, make sure you use a matching thread. Okay, I don't know why it's not going smoothly. So just in my hand right now. I think there's an issue with the machine right now, but that notwithstanding, we continue. You can see that it's laying flat now. Okay, by the time you want to sew the zip, it will be less stressful. So that's the purpose of us doing this now. So if you don't want to do this, one thing you can do is to iron it. Okay, iron it in place. Assuming I use a matching thread, you will not be seeing this black thread. So you can see it's making it kind of unprofessional. It's not making it professional. So you use a matching thread. Since I'm using a yellow fabric, I ought to have used a yellow thread, not a black thread. Okay, so what I'm doing now, guys, I'm trying to pull this one down. I don't want the jean to be seen on top, so I'm trying to pull it down. The best thing to do, the right thing to do, is for you to iron it. Okay, so it can slip and lay flat. So just take note of these tricks and tips I'm trying to say here, so that when you are doing yours, this you will not repeat some certain mistakes. Okay, I don't know what's wrong with my machine. Oh guys, I'm sweating. The weather is so hot here in Lagos State. So hot. Maybe that's why my phone keeps going off and on. Occasionally my phone will just go off. What I will see on the screen of my phone is like, they will say that the temperature is too hot, that I will have to put off my phone. I think that is common to iPhones, but when I was using Android phone, I never had such an issue. So guys, I'm basically just sewing it so it can lay flat. Okay, if you are using a matching thread, you will not see this black thread here. You will not see it. Again, I'm emphasizing it, please use a matching thread if you want to make your work look professional. Okay, use a matching thread. right. I'll cut it. So we have almost done with the zipper pocket. I'll cut it. So you take your, let's move the camera here. So you take your zip now. Okay, so tell me, the reason I did it was for this one to lay flat. You can see it's flat now, it's not coming up again. The jean here is not coming up, it's not disturbing us. So that's one thing you should do. If it's coming up, it's disturbing you as a beginner, you start having issue, make sure you just sew it in place first. Okay, sew it in place, or you iron. If you cannot iron, you sew it. So if you want to sew the zipper now, if you want to sew the zipper on it, to get your pocket or your compartment, you see this is same stitch that you sew on before, it's the same stitch you are going to sew on again. Okay, so I don't have two lines of stitches. Take note of these tips I'm showing you guys. So you going to place the zipper there. Okay, place the zipper like this. So some persons, what some people do, they use their double-sided tape to just gum it in place. Okay, you can put your double-sided there, then you put it. I won't advise you to use your adhesive gum, it will get your work stained. Okay, so you just sew on the same stitch, you sew it just to hold the zipper to it. So we are going to sew now on the same stitch. So I'll move back again. That's a very simple thing to do. Once you follow the instruction, you see that these things are very simple. Just that most of you are not patient to watch. You are not patient. For instance, some of you that are going coming, if you are patient to watch, you won't be buying some courses, you won't buy some course to like, you won't find anything difficult when it comes to bag making. Sometimes when you see a genuine person trying to teach you some secrets and tips, always be patient and be ready to ask questions too. So I'm just going to sew on that same stitch. Okay, you don't have to do all of this. So the reason I'm doing this because I did not iron it, and the inner lining was coming out, or the inner fabric was coming out. I wanted it to stick flat. So basically I'm just sewing on that stitch there, on this other stitch. Then one other thing you can do, if you're a beginner, I advise you, because there might be a likelihood of it moving around, you can pin this fabric to this pocket. You pin them together, you use your pins to hold them together so that they don't move against each other. Okay, they don't move against each other. So use your pin as a beginner. So if you're not a beginner, there are some things you don't do once you are used to some certain things. So you know me, I'm not a beginner, so I can maneuver my way through it. So if you're a beginner, just please use your pins. Use your pins. That's why you have your pin. Use your clips, use your double-sided tape, use your gum. These things help you a lot. Okay, and so I'm basically sewing on that stitch just to hold the zip to the lining now, to hold the two together. So you can see that in this case the black thread is showing. So that's why I will always emphasize, please use a matching thread. If I had used a matching thread, you won't be seeing any of this thread. Okay, and that will give you a professional work. So whatever you are doing, you are making bag, always use a matching thread with the fabric you are using. That's a tip. Be taking note of these tips, so because our aim is to start making professional bags. So if you see it trying to fold, you take this one up, then you can most you just put your needle down, then you stretch it. We don't want it to fold there. All right, so in this case I'm not very comfortable because I'm not using a matching thread. So I'll always advise you use a matching thread. Use a matching thread. So I'll arrange. You can see I'm arranging the zipper in place because I did not pin them. If you pin them, you won't have to arrange. So make sure you are arranging it so that the zipper does not move away. So you arrange it in place. Just be patient, so guys, we are almost through. We are almost through. So I'm not pinning them, so I'll just be using my hand to arrange it in place, but I did not pin. So at every point I will make sure I'm sewing on the zip. Sewing on the zip. you can also do, guys, you can sew 2 lines. If for instance you sew, okay, you can sew another line of stitch on this, so it can be very well secured. Okay, it's moving away. I'll just, this edge here, I'm going to put my needle down, raise this part up, then I'll move the edge down, so we'll be able to sew it well. Then I'll put this one down again. So we are still following that line. So the pin here is kind of disturbing. I'll move the pin away from it. We are almost through.